Lowering your ACOS in general is a challenge, but how do you do so in Q4? That's a unique challenge. I'm David Goldenberg, a 20-year digital vet. I led the marketing for a seller who grew from 30 million a year to 57 million a year and started PPC agency based on that. Here are some of the questions that my team has dealt with then that we continue to deal with today in Q4. For your keyword targeting, do you want to target seasonal keywords such as gifts for dad? What about deal keywords such as deal on product X or category Y? How do you manage the huge increase in volume of keywords? How do you target all of those extra keywords without making your account bloated and unmanageable? Should you have a tree or tinsel, mistletoe in your ads, in your landing pages? What about promoting deals in your ad creative? Should you do that? Should you not? How do you need to adjust your ACOS if you will do that? There are lots of bidding questions as well to address, but I want to address those in a separate video I can link to at the end. And for now, let's focus on the keyword and creative questions to get you the most profitable Q4 in your brand. For now, let's focus on the keyword and creative questions to get you the most profitable Q4 in your brand's history. Should you target keywords like gifts for dad, these seasonal gift keywords? It's tempting for a lot of sellers to say, hey, well, I have something that could be a gift for dad. Why don't I promote my product on this keyword? And the problem with it being so vague is that your click-through rates are going to be pretty low. And if your click-through rates are low, right, then that means you're going to get charged a very high percentage of your bid. So this is going to give you something like this, right? Maybe 1% if you're doing well on, let's say, TOS, that's top of search, okay? And your CPC is going to be very high. If you're bidding, let's say, $2, you might not get a discount to like $1.50. You might pay the full $2, you understand? And the other thing of this being so vague is that everybody else also thinks, hey, my product could also be a gift for dads. So then you get all these people targeting the same keywords, which Amazon obviously loves. But a lot of people targeting the same keywords means there's more competition and the ad auction charges you more per click. Now, you're not limited to targeting keywords in sponsored products, obviously. You can also target in sponsored brands. So if you have the catalog that can match a variety of the different intents that a person may have when looking for gifts for dad, in that case, you could try an approach focused on sponsored brands. And I teach this in a separate video you can watch. I'll link to it below. But the point is, this segment and conquer strategy allows you to take vague keywords and appeal to multiple segments within that audience. And by doing so, you can get higher click-through rate and lower cost per click so that your ACOS is still going to be manageable. It's probably not going to be cheap in Q4 especially, but if you take this kind of approach, you can get the kind of click-through rate that would make this at least break even and even possibly profitable. You need to have the right catalog for this to make sense, right? If you're just selling, for example, watches, or you've just got wallets, you're probably gonna have a hard time. But if you also have, let's say, wallets and, tech gizmos and whatever it is you like my tech gizmos drawing, then you'll have a better chance to make this a profitable ad target. Should you target deal keywords? Over here I've got soccer deals, for example. Should you target that if you're selling soccer items? Now, there's a few considerations. First of all, who's shopping for deals? People shopping for deals do not want to spend much money, right? And what that means is that your ACOS is likely to go up because your cost per click is still going to be high. It's still Q4. There's other people who haven't watched this video and are going to go for these keywords. And if you are not one of the top sellers in that category, you're going to find it pretty hard. There's another consideration also. If you're targeting deal keywords, you need to take into account that your normal ACOS target is not the same ACOS target you can use here. So for example, if you're running your ads just to break even and push organic ranking, let's say. So you have a 30% margin and your target ACOS is 30%. But now you're running a deal for 15% off. Well, if you still run a 30% ACOS target, let's just show it here visually a bit easier. Okay, so if you're ACOS target, right, is going to be 30%. What happens when you've also got a deal for 15%, right? That means you're actually spending 45%. Oops, now you're 15% in the red. Okay, so you need to recalculate this target ACOS if you're going to go for those keywords. Under normal circumstances, your keyword array, for example, for soccer shoes, might look something like this, right? So in addition to soccer shoes, you might have search suggestions for soccer shoes for boys, for girls, for men, for women. Okay, maybe a few other variations. During Q4, there's loads more people searching, and everybody has their own particular variation in mind. And what that means is that there's loads more keywords going on here. Now, if you start trying to target all those keywords, your keyword count is going to inflate. And when you get overwhelmed and you can't manage a large volume account, what doesn't get managed, that drives up your ACOS. So how can you target all these variations and benefit from the rise in the number of keywords and the increasing sales, the increasing demand, increasing conversion rates, without your ACOS also blowing up? So what you need to do is not target all of these new keywords with exact match, but with phrase match, number one, okay? If you're doing sponsored brands, you need to know that there's two kinds of broad matches, okay? There is broad match modified and unmodified, okay? What's the difference? What's broad match modified? Broad match modified is what probably most of you think of as broad match, but many years ago, Amazon changed it, and for whatever reason, most people still don't know the difference. So broad match means your keywords that you target can appear in any order in the search term. However, Amazon changed things so that your keywords no longer need to appear in the search term whatsoever. So if you want them to appear in the search term, what you can do is you can put a plus sign in front of each word that you want to appear in the search term. So you can put it in front of all of the keywords or just some of them. And the way that would work is, for example, if I do soccer shoes, right, and I put a plus sign here and a plus sign there, so then Amazon has to have both soccer and shoes in my search term. So that would allow me to get soccer shoes for boys, for girls, for men, for women. If I do something like this, okay, soccer shoes like that, then what I'm saying is soccer has to be in the search term, but shoes doesn't have to be. They still need to give me a related term or something that is relevant, but the word shoes might not appear. And what that means is I can do something like I'll get soccer cleats, for example. Or if, for example, you think there's people searching with British terminology, so you might even leave out the other plus sign and do basically a broad match unmodified, okay? So if you target like this, soccer shoes with no plus sign, then you might get something like this, football studs. And I know in American English that means handsome guys, but for the British that means cleated shoes. So what you can do with this is you can target a much broader range of keywords, of search terms, without having to overload your account with every exact match variation that you can think of. And that allows you to keep things manageable and also to get enough data. If you get enough data, you can see what the pattern is sooner and you can adjust your bids sooner. By doing that, then you can keep your ACOS under control as opposed to getting 5 clicks in a week and needing to wait 8 weeks just to get 40 clicks, which is about the threshold you need to make a decision if your conversion rate is about 10%, which is common on Amazon. So this is a way to take advantage of the dramatic increase in the number of keywords and searches happening and the different variations happening in Q4 without your ACOS blowing up, because you can still manage it in this way. Okay, let's talk about the creative aspects that you need to know about in order to keep your ACOS down in Q4. So one obvious question is, do you need to add a tree, right, or other similar seasonal decor to your videos, to your landing pages, to your Amazon brand store? Is that necessary in Q4? And I'll tell you about my own experience. We had a perfect 10%.00 ACOS in the hardest week of the year, basically the very end of December. And that happened without any mistletoe, tinsel, trees, etc. Now, does that mean that this won't help? Frankly, I can't speak from experience because we haven't actually done this, but it's definitely not necessary. Okay? And truth be told, if everybody's doing it, does that differentiate your products? Does that differentiate your marketing from your competitors? Not really. So you can A/B test it. It's an interesting question whether that might help you or not. But don't feel like you have to. There's definitely things that can do more for your conversion rate, for your average order values, than adding trees into your creative. Now, if you're running deals, you need to understand that with your sponsored brands, your creative is going to be modified. Okay, I'm bringing this up because there's obviously a lot of deals going on in Q4. So if our starting situation is like this, I've got 3 side tables with my sponsored brand video ad, and they're at, $3 signs, pricing, whatever. Now what happens if I run a deal for this to go down for whatever time period? What Amazon is going to do is they're going to change your creative. This is what it's going to look like. That one comes there, and the one that's on deal now shows up first. Okay, so this goes, it stayed at the same price, but now this one at just $1 sign price, whatever, okay, that is going to show up first. And you need to have that in mind because depending on how well it sells for you with that campaign, you may or may not want that. And you also need to know that that's going to change the profitability of your campaign. If this has a higher margin, and this has a higher margin, and this has a lower margin, or the other way around, right? So this goes back to what we were talking about earlier about adjusting your ACOS targets if you're running ads to products that are running deals. Just to clarify that point, the idea is that the percentage of products sold from your campaign that are this ASIN as opposed to the other ASINs, because we read from left to right in English, right? So this one is becoming more prominent and likely to sell a lot more. That's usually what we see in the attributed purchases report because it got moved to the front. And you need to take that into account when planning what your deal strategy is going to be and how that integrates with your sponsored brands. Now, there's one more aspect to deals and creative that you need to be familiar with, and that is this, that in the official guidelines from Amazon, you're forbidden to write anything in the custom image for a sponsored brand product collection, right? That's these sponsored brands that have basically 3 products underneath them with an image and a headline over here, right? Not the video, the static image sponsored brand. Now, officially you can't do that. In practice, I've seen and myself use text in our custom images because think about what happens at the bottom of your search results. Those products aren't shown. The headline isn't shown by default. Amazon is just showing your custom image, right? This is all that is showing. And so if you put in a bit of text, that can help to clarify to people what is your unique selling point or your value proposition. Okay, now that we covered how to lower your ACOS in Q4 using keywords and better ad creative, I want to share 2 things. One, I forgot that I've got a special resource for you down below in the description, which is a list of negative keywords you should add to most of your campaigns. a lot of deal keywords where people are just super cheap and they're not going to convert really well for you, that would really increase your ACOS. You can just copy paste that literally from the description below to your ad campaigns, and that'll save you a lot of clicks on bad traffic. The second thing is there's the second part to this video, which is how to lower your ACOS in Q4. But this part is about using bid techniques. See you there.